Thank you for joining us for the Miami Valley Salute to Veterans. I'm Cindy LaPointe-Dafler, a volunteer host for the Miami Valley Communications Council. My husband was killed in Vietnam in 1969 and posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. So why am I host for this? I love being around our veterans and talking with them, hearing their stories and their thoughts. This is my way of honoring my husband's legacy. We hope that hearing these memories from the veterans of our community will help us all better understand the dedication of those who served. Today we're talking with Phillip Helleis.
Close enough.
You pronounce it for me.
Helleis
of Covington, right?
Yep.
An Army veteran who served from 1986 to 1989, is that correct?
Active duty, yes.
Okay.
And then a year in the reserves before then, but.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that too.
Okay.
He'll tell us the story of his time in the military, and thank you for being with us today, Phil.
Thanks for having me, Cindy.
Okay. Well, what made you start in the reserves? And what were you still in school or?
Well, what happened was, at first, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to go into the military. A little background on me: my parents had me late, so they were in their 40s when they had me. So my parents were 2 generations older than all the other kids in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So they went through the Depression. They went through World War II. So pretty much, my dad included, all my uncles had served in World War II. And they were all in the Navy, which was the big branch that people wanted to go to back then, because you got to travel and see the world, and you rode on ships. So they were all in the Navy. When I went in, it was kind of a thing where all the guys in my family did it, so I almost felt like I was obligated to serve myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to go in the Navy. I went in the Army because it was just basically my favorite branch of service, you know. Also, if you went in the Army, you could serve in Germany, which was where my family was from, on my dad's side. So I wanted a shot of going over and serving in Germany and seeing what that was all about. So I got emancipated at 17 years old, and I joined up in November of 1984. And then
that was in the reserves?
That was in the reserves. I took the California High School Proficiency, which was the GED of its day, at least for California.
Now, you grew up in California?
I did. I grew up in San Diego.
Okay.
Big Navy presence there, you know. Top Gun School in Miramar, which is no longer there, but and then they've got the big naval base.
So you rebelled a little bit and went in the Army, huh?
I did. Actually, I took ROTC in high school, junior ROTC, and
Okay.
It was Navy because San Diego was a Navy town.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, just something always about the Army that I knew I didn't want to go in the Marines or the Air Force. And like I said, everybody in my family had been in the Navy, so I just picked the Army.
Okay. And then when did you go from reserves to regular Army?
That was about a year later. I went through basic training. I went through my AIT, and then I came back to my unit in San Diego, and we would meet. I think it was once a month back then. It might have been 2 times a month, but I didn't really enjoy it. I was a surgical assistant, an operating room technician, and all we did was do inventory the whole time. That's all we did. We went down there and we did inventory for a day, and then that was it.
Oh my gosh.
counted the instruments. There wasn't really much for us to do. So I didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't the same. If I would have been active duty, I'd been working at a hospital or something like that and doing that type of stuff every day.
We didn't get to your MOS. And now, you said you took basic. Was you were still in the reserves when you did that? Did you do it locally?
Right. No. In the summer of 1985, I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for basic.
Across the country.
Relaxin' Jackson, they called it. And it was anything but. And it was the typical basic training stuff, lots of training, lots of running, lots of push-ups. And it was in the middle of the summer in South Carolina, so it was just hot and muggy. And I was in pretty good shape at that time. I had played sports before then. So it wasn't that bad on me, but physically, but there were some guys you could tell that just hadn't done a lick of any type of exercise in a while, and it was rough on those guys.
Oh my gosh. And it's an all volunteer army by then. There's no draft.
It is. It's all volunteer.
Yeah.
And it was a big eye opener. That was really the first place. I'm a 17-year-old kid. That's the first place I really ever went on my own. And
wow.
So
how did you feel about that?
Like I said, it was a big eye opener. And I really thought at the time, I was like, wow, these people really own me and they can do whatever they want to me. That's when it really dawned on me. And all I could think was, boy, I hope the rest of this isn't going to be just like this. I mean,
yeah. So for your MOS, for those that don't know, it's a military occupational specialty. Where did you take your AIT?
The first one, I went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And
explain what your job was, your MOS.
I was an operating room specialist or a surgical assistant. And what I did was I would set up the operating room before they went and did surgery, all the instruments that needed to go in there, anything else we needed. And then I would scrub, gown, glove up, go in and assist, and then clean up the mess when we were done.
Wow. Now, did you choose that or were you told?
No. I chose that.
Okay.
I have no idea why I chose that too.
Anybody else in your family medical?
No, not at all. They are now. I got a bunch of nurses in my family, but I scored pretty high on the ASVAB. I could have picked whatever I wanted.
Okay. So you took your advanced training at Fort Sam. That's where they train
Fort Sam, Houston.
Medics and such.
Right. That was in San Antonio, Texas. Funny story there. Like I said, I was a dumb 17-year-old kid. I never went anywhere. And I thought Fort Sam Houston was in Houston, Texas. So that's where I took the plane to. And I got in the cab and I said, he asked me where I wanted to go. I said, Fort Sam Houston. He's like, you realize that's going to be like about $300. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're in Houston. That's in San Antonio. So I got back on the plane and I had just enough money basically to make it to Fort Sam Houston.
Gosh.
Yeah. But I thought it was in Houston, Texas.
Well, you didn't know.
I did not know. And we didn't have the internet back then, so you couldn't look, But anyways, I found the place.
Yeah. What was the best part of your training, either basic or AIT?
Well, at that particular phase, the thing I liked about my AIT in San Antonio was it was in Texas and it was in San Antonio, and there was a lot of stuff to do. when you're a 17-year-old kid with money in your pocket, put it that way, in Texas at that particular time too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to lie, back then, if you were in the military, you could drink in Texas.
Okay.
So there was all kinds of stuff to do. And that was the first time I had ever been on my own too, you know, around a bunch of Army guys. So we made the rounds and we had some fun. And that's what I remember about being the best part of that particular place.
Do you remember the guys that you were in training with?
One of the guys I went through basic training with, Evans was his name. He was going to school for the same thing. So, you know, that was the guy I hung around with. We knew each other from basic training. So, yeah, I wasn't, you know, I didn't feel like a complete stranger going to school because I had a buddy from basic training. And that's what, you know, we hung out and all that.
That's good.
Yeah.
What was the worst part?
The worst part? I don't really think there was a worst part. I enjoyed that after basic training. I enjoyed that a lot more than I enjoyed basic training.
Sure.
So I don't really think there was a bad part as far as I was concerned. I was learning, you know, before you even learn how to be an operating room specialist, you learn, like, you go through class to learn what a basic corpsman would do, like a combat field medic would do. Like
late husband.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. He was a combat medic, wasn't he?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I had to go to that. We went through that class before we even got on to the other stuff.
Certainly.
So
good. Does any of the instructors stand out to you?
No, not from AIT.
You didn't get close to any of them.
I remember both of my drill instructors from basic training though.
Yeah.
Our senior drill instructor, that was Jenkins. We were pretty close. He called me Junior. So I remember him. And then the other drill instructor, Sergeant Pelkey, I remember him because he took me upstairs one day and roughed me up a little bit. He didn't hit me or anything, but he bounced me off a couple foot lockers.
Oh my gosh.
And we didn't get along. Yeah. Yeah. That's when I knew the Army had me.
Oh my God.
So
did you were in the medical side of it. You didn't qualify with any other machinery, or did you have to qualify with guns or?
No, I mean, I qualified on a rifle and basic, but
Okay.
that was it. That was the only equipment that I qualified on.
Okay. What was your first assignment after your training was done?
After that, so I just went back to my unit in San Diego, my reserve unit.
Really?
Yes.
So that was for reserves that you took that training?
Right. Yeah. I trained for something totally different once I went active duty.
Oh,
You
really?
want to talk about that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, when I went active duty, I became a what they call a 13 Foxtrot, which is a forward observer. And for those who don't speak Army speak, that is an infantry guy with a radio to the artillery, and we call and adjust artillery and any other type of fire support.
I see.
So, but it was mainly artillery. We were part of a artillery battery, and I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Ah.
And that's where I did my training there. And to be honest, I don't remember a whole lot about that. Nothing really sticks out, but there is one thing that does stick out. That was Oklahoma is part of Tornado Alley, if you know what that is.
Yep.
That's that part of the Midwest that gets a lot of tornadoes.
Right.
And the day before I got there, a big, I don't know what it was, a category 3 or 4 tornado came through, and the front page of the newspaper, and it was the whole page, was a picture of a telephone pole with a piece of straw that went through it and was hanging out
Oh my
each
gosh.
side of it. And that's the main thing that I remember
Huh.
about that particular
So that
part of my
that
life.
happened the day before you got there.
Right. And that was
Aren't
the
you
front
lucky?
page. That was the front page of the newspaper. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so while we were doing that training, because that was in the summertime too, and it was hot there. Every once in a while, every few days, the tornado sirens would go off, and then we'd have to take cover somewhere.
Practice.
Yeah. So that's what I remember the most about that.
If you're just joining us, this is Miami Valley Communications Council's Salute to Veterans podcast, and I'm your host, Cindy LaPointe-Dafler. Today we're talking with Phil.
Hello.
Hello. What was your first assignment after your training?
Okay, my first assignment, active duty, was I got sent to the 7th Infantry Division Light in Fort Ord, California. So
Okay.
I went in the Army, active duty, to see the world, and they sent me right back to California.
Now, where is that in California?
That is part of the Central Coast, the northern part of the Central Coast. It's in Monterey.
Okay.
Monterey, California.
And what did you do there?
I walked a lot, mostly. We were a light infantry division, so we walked everywhere. And I was attached to the infantry, so usually about every 2 or 3 months we'd go to the field, and we do a lot of walking.
That doesn't sound exciting.
It wasn't really. I told that recruiter too when I went in, I'm like, I don't want to be an infantry guy. And he's like, oh, you're going to like this. And basically I was just an infantry guy with a radio to the artillery. That's what I was.
So did you get assignment other than that? I mean, how
No, that's where I was stationed for the whole 3 years that I was in the active duty Army.
Oh my gosh.
That was my whole 3 years.
So you stayed in California the whole time?
I did. I got to go. We went places, of course, when we were training or doing other things. But most of the time, a lot of that time was spent at a place called Camp Roberts.
Where's that?
That is inland from Fort Ord, about probably about an hour and a half drive south of it. That's where we went to do artillery training, to adjust rounds, and because we really had two kind of separate types of training. One where we trained with the infantry when we were out on maneuvers, and then our training, which we went to which were live fires, where we would train with the artillery battery, and they would shoot rounds over our head onto what we called junk, which were just like old tracks or old tanks, and then we would adjust the rounds, and that's how we would practice what we did.
So the goal was to blow them up.
Right. I mean, that's all we really did was, we had these special binoculars with little tick marks on them, and we would spot where the round would land, and then we would call and tell them, left or right, or, up or down, which is bring it closer or bring it farther. So we did that. And then the rest of our training, we were just out on maneuvers with the infantry, which was just mock battles that we would have. We were using blanks. There was no live fires or anything like that.
Wow.
For the most part.
Okay. How did you feel about that experience? I mean, you were kind of stuck there in California for the whole time?
Yeah, like I said, I wanted to go to Germany,
Right.
and they're like, "Oh, well, do your 3 years, and you know, when you re-up, because they just automatically assume you're going to re-up. They don't.
Do they?
They're like, then then you can go wherever you want. You can go to Hawaii or Germany, or those were really the two big places that people wanted to go at that time. This was back before the wall came down too. So when I say Germany, I
Oh,
mean
yeah.
West Germany.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but it wasn't too bad because from the standpoint that whenever I had free time or I went on leave, I was pretty close to home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was probably within about a 6-hour drive
Mm-hmm.
of where I came from. So, my family members and friends would come to visit me because I wasn't that far away.
Yeah.
I wasn't on the other side of the country, and or I could go visit them.
Mm-hmm.
So that
So,
was a good thing.
so that's kind of what you did with your time off.
I did. Whenever I had time, to go on leave, I'd usually fly down to San Diego and spend time there with my parents and my sister.
Did you have any unusual or humorous events during that time?
There was a lot of them. I just can't remember. It's been so long ago, but I got to the two places that I got to go train at that were out of the country. Um, we went to South Korea
Ah,
for what they called Team Spirit.
so you did get out of California.
Oh yes, I did. I just didn't, I wasn't stationed there.
Right.
And then we went to Honduras back when Reagan called us down there to the Nicaraguans were massing on the border. So they called us down there as a show of force. So we went down there too. So those were the two places that I got to go outside of the country.
Wow.
And the thing I remember the most about both those trips were because I had never been out of the United States except for Tijuana, because
Okay.
I live in San Diego, so we
Yeah.
went down there once in a while. But those were really the first two places that I had went outside the country where I just saw how poor, like, the rest of the world was compared to the
Mm-hmm.
U.S.
Yeah.
Especially Honduras. Boy, then people were really poor.
Yeah. Quite shocking.
And then Korea, the cities were pretty modern, but we were like out in the sticks training, so the rural areas were really poor too. But I do remember, you want a humorous story?
Yeah.
Every time we moved, there was a lady that followed our camp around that like sold ramen and candies and sweets and stuff like that. Every time we moved to a new area, she was always sitting there waiting for us. I don't know how she found out where we were going, but
She had an inn somewhere.
something. But yeah, she was always sitting there waiting
And
for us.
this was in Korea or
This was in Korea doing Team Spirit. Yeah, they called her Mama San, and she had this big truck that just had all kinds of like goodies you could buy off of her. And she was waiting there for us. And I guess the joke was that, before they decided to move, that they had to talk to her and find out where we were going or something. So,
I like that. I like that.
yeah.
What was the best part of your military experience?
The best part for me was I said I was a young kid, so that was the first time I was really out on my own. That was the first time I really did anything by myself, you know.
Sure.
And
Well, you were pretty young.
I couldn't wait. Those were different times back then. Kids couldn't wait to just get out of the house. They wanted to get away. It's not like now where kids are still living at home in their 30s and 40s. Like, I couldn't wait to get away. So that was the best part for me, was the freedom.
Just getting out.
And it introduced me to the real world too.
Even though you were owned by somebody.
I was.
Where were you when your service ended? Were you still in?
I was stationed at Fort Ord still. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you just go home?
I did. My sister, who married a Marine, they drove up. He was stationed at Camp Pendleton. That's where she met him. So they drove up and picked me up and my motorcycle up and drove me all the way back down to San Diego.
Wow. What did you do after that? Did you go to college or?
No.
You got a job?
I didn't. I got a job. And by that time, it was the 90s. That was really the first time I ever really felt free, was after I was out of the Army, to be honest.
Sure.
But I thought civilian life was going to be a lot freer than it actually was. So yeah, I got out of the Army and I started working in sales, and that was it. I just kind of moved on from it.
Yeah, that can be a tough job.
There was a little bit of culture shock though at first, because after you spent that amount of time being told what to do, and
exactly,
and you're busy all the time too.
Yeah.
So I went from being like busy all the time and always having something to do to there wasn't a whole lot going on, and it really took me probably about a month to kind of readjust back to the civilian life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And did you continue to live with your folks?
No. I
moved out as quick as you could.
Well, when I got out, my dad had already passed away. My mom wasn't doing quite so well. So no, when I got out, I just, got a job, got my own place, and just kept moving on. Yeah. Once I left the nest, I was gone for good. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get to Ohio?
I have my sister, the one who married the Marine. Well, he was from Ohio, and when he got out of the service, they came back here. He's from Pleasant Hill, which is like the next town over from where I live, Covington. And so I came back to Ohio in October of 2005. And I was just tired of California, I think. And everybody I knew, all my family, had left or passed away, or,
Sure.
they were all somewhere else. And I only have one sister. So she came out to visit me that summer of 05. And she stayed for 2 weeks, and then that's what got me thinking about it. So
to basically live close to family.
Yeah, she was really the only family I have left, close family. I've got cousins on the East Coast, but yeah. So anyways, I came back in 05. She talked me into it, and here I am.
Here you are, still here.
Still here.
That's great. Do you Did you join any military or veteran organizations at all?
No, I'm a patient with the Dayton VA,
Mm-hmm.
but I never really joined any VA organizations. When I got out of the military, I just kind of put it behind me. I was just off onto other things,
Mm-hmm. I understand.
and I didn't stay in any contact with any of the people that I knew in the military. I wasn't really close with anybody, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
when I was in the military. Um, so yeah, I just never kept in contact with anybody.
Is there anything you wanted to share about your military experience that you haven't?
I had thought back then, because of my family history, that serving in the military was kind of a family tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my part, but I don't know what's changed since then, but I was the last one in my family to actually serve. I mean, uh, all my cousins were older than me, so
Sure.
they went before me, but everybody that's come after me, in my family, none of them have served. So I don't know. I felt kind of disappointed about that a little bit. Um, but I don't know, kids are different these days, I guess.
I hear that a lot. So the next generation in your family just really didn't serve.
Yeah, I guess it just wasn't as important to them,
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
as a family tradition. So,
So if you were going to tell a young person thinking about joining the military, if you're going to talk to them, what would you tell them? Would you encourage them or?
I would, um, just purely from the standpoint that, the people who join today, they get so much more than what we got
Mhm.
back in our day, or before me. Um, but I would also encourage them just from the standpoint of, just if you just want to do something for somebody besides yourself,
Yeah,
that might be a good place to start. And who knows, you might meet some people that might take you further down that road too. So
yeah, that's great. Anything else?
no, I think that about covers it.
That's about covers it. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Phil, for coming in and talking to me and spending time here.
Thanks for having me.